Hi, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome to today's session. We are here to set the year and kick it off strong. But before we do that, I wanted to let everyone join and tell me what your goals are from today's webinar and this week's challenge. We're going to go into a little more detail about these in just a minute, but while you join, I also wanted to introduce my colleague Andrea, who will be here in the chat helping everyone with any issues that you might have. We're eager to get these started, but I also wanted to remind you that this session is recorded, so you will see it all at the end. Although we would love it if you could stay with us until the end, because we do have a special offer for everyone in here. And since we're talking about it, I am very curious to see how many of you are already using Social Bee or thinking about using Social Bee. So let me know in the chat if you're using Social Bee or not yet, and what your expectations are for today's session. And without further ado, what I'll do is I'll share my screen with everyone and we'll get things rolling. So I can see that some of you are using Social Bee, some of you are not, which is great. I also wanted to let everyone know that we do have a Q&A session planned for the end of this session. So you will be able to add your questions in the Q&A box at any point to make sure that we'll see them and answer them at the end. So let's get things started. I will share my screen with you guys. Let's see. I think you can see my screen already. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. I'll start with this. I think this is not right. I have two screens, by the way. So if you see me looking in two directions, that's why. Let me just quickly switch things over, because I do need my second screen with my notes to make sure that I don't forget anything, because this session is jam-packed with a lot of information. So let's see if this works this time. Where are we? We're here. And I will share my screen again. Sorry about this. It's been a while since I've done this last in December. Okay, so I think this will do it. I'll make it a presenter view so that we have everything there. And you can see my screen, right? You can see the 5-day social media challenge. I'll have my chat here to make sure. Okay, everything's perfect. Well, in that case, welcome to the 5-day social media challenge. This is going to be a week full of daily webinars, as you can see on the screen, and we're going to tackle interesting subjects like auditing your social media, goal setting, planning and posting, content creation, engagement, and analytics. All of this, one topic per day throughout this week. So we're going to start with day 1, which is actually auditing and goal setting. This is today's session, and it's going to be jam-packed with a lot of information. With this session, we're going to focus on taking a closer look at your existing content and your profiles and see how we can improve it and set our goals to kick off 2024. Before we get into it, though, let me properly introduce myself. Hi, I'm Anka. I'm a social media strategist here at Social Bee, and I am super excited to have you all here with me during this challenge. Now, I also wanted to share a few awesome news that I have before we actually get started. There's actually something really exciting happening with this challenge. 6 of you who are joining us day to day in this challenge are going to have the amazing opportunity to win either Social Bee plans for a year, Social Bee or Concierge Bee services, or even a lifetime access to our sister company ACE meetings, which is a calendar solution. So all you have to do really is commit to joining us live or in the recorded sessions for 5 days in a row. This week, we're going to make your social media strategy, make it worthwhile all alone. Now, before I jump into the actual topic, one final thing that I wanted to say is that if you're not yet using Social Bee, I fully recommend that you stay with us until the end, because we do have a little something to help you get things started. So again, today, day one, auditing and goal setting. Let's start with the why and the what. What exactly is auditing and why do we need it to social media, to make the most of social media? Well, first of all, it's a social, too many ideas. So a social media audit involves reviewing your business social media to make sure that you're aware of anything that you have, to make sure that you and your social media align with the objectives that your company has, to make sure that you discover all the new opportunities that you might have to grow from social media, and to also save you time in the long run. So it's going to be a lot of information that you're going to get from things that you've already done. That being said, we're going to go through 5 steps. I'm showing it twice, 5 steps in this process. And we're going to start by taking inventory of our social profiles, moving into branding, analyzing the content, and creating our SMART goals. Everything step by step. So let's start with step 1, shall we? Taking inventory of all of your social media profiles. This is important. It's important because you might not be aware of everywhere where your brand exists online yet. You might have forgotten that you've created a profile in the past that's no longer relevant, or just secured the username for TikTok before it became super famous, and now you forgot that you actually have an account there. So make sure in the first step to look at all of your social media platforms and find all of the profiles that you have associated with your company name on each of these platforms. It doesn't matter if it's Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, Snapchat, anything really. Wherever your company is, you need to know about it. And you can make sure that you have all the relevant profiles that you might need. Andrea, my colleague, is also sharing a template that will help you with auditing your social media. So feel free to use that, make a copy of it, and go through it at your own pace after this webinar, or follow through with this webinar here. So now that we have all of the profiles that we have online, the next step is crucial, and it's looking at your branding to make sure that it's cohesive and consistent. Look at things like your account link. You can look at things like the handle, which usually is included in the account link. Look at your bio. Make sure it represents your values, your current values, not the ones that you had 3 years ago. Make sure that your profile image is consistent, that your cover image is consistent, that your bio links are the ones that you should have up at this moment in time, not in the past. Also, you might want to make sure that you have the same branding identity across all of your social media channels. This will help with making sure that your audience recognizes your brand a lot easier. They will not have to dig to find out who you are. They will know you because your branding is consistent. So once you have your profiles and you have them consistent, we're moving into the next phase, which is analyzing everything. And there's actually 2 steps involved here. You will analyze your essential metrics first. So things like follower growth, posting frequency, average reach per post, best performing content, audience size, demographic, anything that's relevant to each individual platform. And it's very important that you keep in mind here that each platform has their own set of social analytics. So you might want to look at, you should, not you might, you should look at any analytics individually per platform and figure out what metrics are important to that platform. If we're talking Instagram, we're talking follower growth, we're talking demographics, we're talking average like count, posting frequency, hashtag usage. We're even talking Reels views. On the other hand, if we're talking TikTok, you want to look at follower growth, you want to look at the video retention, you want to look at the time spent watching your videos, likes, shares, saves of your videos, and things like that. Again, with YouTube, you want to see likes, dislikes. With LinkedIn and X, you want to look at metrics that are relevant to each individual platform specifically. So you might want to start by actually making a list of the metrics that you find relevant for each individual platform. And we're going to go into analytics a little more in depth in day 5. But those are going to look at the general picture for analytics. This is just going to give us a starting point to work from. So it's going to give us a good idea of everything that you've done up until this point and how that helped you move along. So we have the metrics, and now it's time to look at whatever else you have there. And what else could you have on social media other than posts? Right. So we're going to look at your content. We're going to look at what performed. We're going to look at opportunities for growth. We're going to look at new platforms that you might want to address in the future. So for instance, if you haven't created a TikTok yet, if you wanted to create one now, maybe this is the right time for you to focus on TikTok or maybe Instagram, or you can even look at specific features that you might not have been using in the past, but you want to use now. Things like highlights on Instagram, where you can add stories into a highlight that stays on your actual profile. You can look at CTAs, call to actions, and see what you've used up until now and what worked from what you've used, and a lot more things that you could be doing. Basically, the bottom line of step 4 is that you want to look at all of your content, get out with the old content, especially if it didn't work, and in with the new content or new features that work today and in today's social media world. Oh, it's a lot of information already, and I think I'm gonna need a water break. But before I do, I see that people have been joining late. So my colleague Andrea has also shared a template in the chat, in case you've joined late, a template on how you can do social media audit that will help you later down the line. And yes, there will be a replay to today's video. Okay, so we've talked about everything from finding your social media to analyzing the content from social media. And the final step that we didn't talk about yet is the 5th one, which is defining your marketing goals. And this is about 5 specific goals that make up the acronym SMART. I'm sure you've already heard about the SMART goals setting. SMART stands for, as you can see on the screen, it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. So we're going to talk about each of these in a little more detail and see exactly how you can do this. I'm also going to provide some examples later on, and so that way you have all the tools necessary to make it work. So we're going to look at specific, right? Let's start with specific. This is how it should include details about your business, about your goals, what you want to achieve as a business instead of the social media goals. So what do you want to achieve in your business? Let's say brand awareness, right? In that case, specific means brand awareness. I want my brand to be more known. And it's also going to give me a set of steps that I will then be able to follow to make my brand more known. The second step that we have here, measurable. This is going to guide us into how are we going to measure the success or failure of our goals. And to measure, you're going to need metrics. So if your purpose is to gain brand awareness, you're going to do that by getting your brand out there to more and more people. Ergo, you're going to need to grow your brand and expand your brand. That's going to lead into two things: growth on your profile, so increasing your follower count, measurable by percentage or by number of followers grown. And you can look at this if you see that you're growing consistently with a bigger and bigger number of followers over the years. You can talk about percentage growth, and that way it'll be easier for you to say things like, I want to grow by 50% by the end of this year. And that's not necessarily going to be a specific number, but it's going to help you grow down the line. On the other hand, if you do want a specific number, that's also very measurable. I want to grow by 3,000 followers by the end of the year. And that's going to give me a baseline of where I want to go and how to get there. Because once I have my measurable goal, I want to get to 3,000 followers by the end of the year, I can move over into the achievable part of my goals. How can I actually get there? So it's obvious that I'm not just going to click my fingers and get to 3,000, right? So what exactly is an achievable goal? Well, it's a goal that's realistic, that you can actually achieve. So if I wanted to get to 3,000 followers by not posting at all, how achievable is that? Not much, really. So what I know is that goal of reaching 3,000 followers needs to be followed by things that I can actually achieve. So in order to get to those 3 followers, I need to post once every day. I need to create 5 videos per week. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this and that. So can I do all of that? Can I achieve all that I have to? Yes, then my goal is achievable. No, then my goal is not achievable. So make sure that your goal, your end goal, the number of followers, the number of the reach that you want to grow, the engagement rate, all of that are correlated to what you can actually do. Okay, so SMA. It's time to go for the relevant part of these goals, and it will help you solve a business problem. So if your problem is that your business is not visible enough, getting more brand awareness will solve that problem. But if your problem is that you don't have enough sales, then getting more brand awareness might not directly help with that problem. So think about goals that are relevant in each of these directions. So make sure that each problem has their own specific goals that are achievable and measurable and all of that. Hope that makes sense. And then also make sure that your goal is time bound, which is the last step here. So in this case, we want to make sure that we have a due date for the goals, for us to achieve the goals. Usually this is by the end of the year. So we have a full year ahead to reach those goals, and we're going to break them apart into smaller goals, maybe quarterly or monthly, to make sure that we see some progress up until the end of the year. And then at the end of the year, we can review everything and make sure that it worked, that we've reached those goals. And typically, I think that a good percentage of achieved goals is over 70%. So if you've achieved 100% of your goals, I think you undercommitted. If you've achieved less than 50% of your goals, you may have overcommitted to those goals. And if you go at around 70, 75 and higher, a little bit higher than that, then I think you've done just right. You've pushed the limit and you've made it to the right amount of goal achieving at the end of the year. So I would say try to push the barrier a little bit, go a little above what you would feel reachable, but not too much, so that you give yourself a little challenge, a little incentive. And I think that works really well. At least it has for me in the past. So now that we've gone through the 5 steps here, let me also give you some specific examples on what you can do here. So in the first example, the one on the left, you'll have an example of increasing traffic on Pinterest. The specific part of your goal is to double the monthly website traffic from Pinterest. So let's say now you have 1,000 visitors from Pinterest. By the end of the year, you want 2,000. Obviously, this is a random example, but just to give you a good idea of how it works. Then you have the measurable part using Google Analytics to track this website traffic source. You can see in your Google Analytics which users come from Pinterest, which users come from organic search, and so on. And if you use UTM parameters, even better, you're going to be able to see just how measurable this goal is. So create UTM parameters for your pins, for your links on your pins, and use them whenever you're posting on Pinterest. To make it achievable, optimize your Pinterest boards, optimize your descriptions, share content that's very appealing, make sure that you have visually, you put the visual of the content first in Pinterest. That's usually something that works really well to catch the eye, and then provide a lot more information on your website. And also make it time bound by achieving this goal within the next 6 weeks, maybe. I said a year in the beginning, but yeah, so basically this can be for the full year, this can be for 6 weeks, this can be for a quarter. It's completely up to you. This example is for 6 weeks. We can also make it bigger by going for a full year and then breaking it down into quarters or months or weeks or however we want to. On the right here, we have a separate example on growing your YouTube audience. Again, specific is getting new 500 new subscribers for your YouTube channel. Measurable is tracking your subscriber count in your YouTube analytics, or a tool like SocialBee that can give you some analytics on this. Getting it achievable by publishing high quality and consistent content. YouTube is very important, especially to be consistent with your content. So also make sure to promote that content and cross-post it on other platforms to get people from your Instagram, from your Facebook, from your LinkedIn over to your YouTube to see the full-length video. So you could be creating a shorter version of that video, like a teaser that you would post as a reel on Instagram, and sending people over to your YouTube to see the full thing. You're also going to make it relevant by growing subscribers, which increases the channel's influence. Sorry. And you're going to make it time bound by achieving this goal within the next 3 months, a year, and so on. So I hope these examples actually get a little more info and a little more clarity in you. I see people in the chat asking about the UTM parameters. Yes, I will explain what those are. So these stand for Universal Tracking Metrics. It's a system that you can use with any link, and I'm sure you've seen it around. When you click on an article, and instead of being just the link of that article, you see like a 2 or 3 row link that's super long. Those are UTM parameters. Those are universal tracking metrics. what they help with is getting more information into your Google Analytics so that you have a lot of more specific data. To go back to my example, in Pinterest, what you could do is add a UTM. So these UTM parameters, they are usually split between 6 or 7 categories. So you can add a medium, you can add a source, you can add a specific campaign, and so on and so forth. Let's just keep it simple and say that instead of just sharing the link to your blog post, you would share the link to your blog post with the UTM parameter for tracking your social platforms. So if you're using Social Bee for this, and I can actually share this, actually, let me go into Social Bee and show it to you. You can still see my screen, right? You can see Social Bee. Please confirm in the chat. Yes. Okay. So I'm moving into Social Bee in the category section. And in here, if I'm going to edit my categories, I have URL settings, which is where I can set the UTM parameters for specific categories. Now, you can also do this outside of Social Bee. I think if you're just going to Google UTM parameter builder, Google has a good one, and it's easy to use, and you can create that. But you can also use this in Social Bee. For me, it's just easier to show it to you directly here. And there are several types of UTMs that you can create. So for our example of using Pinterest specifically, we can just tag it by social network. If you're using a builder outside of Social Bee, you will have to specifically say in maybe the source, the medium, that it's Pinterest / YouTube, Facebook, and so on. And this is, again, to track people coming from that platform over to your website. And that way you know whether Pinterest is an effective platform for you or not. Because not everybody has something to gain from Pinterest. Even though it's a very popular platform, it's one that is a great traffic source for most audiences. Sometimes it doesn't work for some smaller businesses. So you might want to look at different other approaches. So that's why it's important to track where all of your audiences are coming from. So back to the point, in Social Bee, you can tag by social network. And when you're going into your Google Analytics, you would have it super easy, broken down into each platform specifically, and you would see if your Pinterest goal is achievable or not. So I hope that makes more sense now. If you have any other questions on UTM parameters specifically or SMART goals, leave them in the Q&A box, because we are going to have a session at the end of today's webinar. Okay, so we took a lot of information in. I see other questions popping in the chat. Please make sure to add them in the Q&A section. That's where I will address them. Okay, so we've talked about all the 5 steps. If you don't remember them, let me go back to the beginning and review them a little again. So step 1, take inventory of your social profiles. Step 2, make sure your branding is consistent. Step 3, analyze your essential metrics. And for this, we're going to have a more specific session in the 5th day about the types of metrics that you should monitor throughout, and so on and so forth. Step 4, out with the old, in with the new. So look at your content, look at your existing content and figure out what worked, what didn't. Look at your existing platforms and see what features you're currently using, what you've used in the past, what worked and what didn't, and all of that. And then finally, create your SMART goals. Easy as that. Okay, so we're gonna have a practical exercise, which is where I'll shut up and I'm gonna let all of you take a few moments and take inventory of your profiles and make sure that you define at least one SMART goal in your social media strategy. Before I do that, I wanted to remind you to stick with us until the end of our session, especially if you're not yet using Social Bee, because we will have a little incentive for you at the end. So I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to be in the chat if you have any questions about this particular exercise. Take your time and work through it. We're going to wait for about, I would say around 10 minutes or so. So yeah, I think that's going to start now. Okay, you can keep those goals coming in the chat. I love that you're sharing them. It makes it a lot more actionable. And I'm actually going to go through a few of them while you still go through the process just to see how great this is. So I will post 3 times a day. That's a great goal if you're posting on X, but be careful if you're posting on other platforms like Instagram. It might be too much. So be more specific. Where will you post 3 times a day? Will you post on TikTok, which is great, or will you post on Instagram, where 3 times might be a little overkill for a daily post? So be more specific than that. I will do a live stream on TikTok daily at least once. This is a great one, but make sure you don't overcommit. Make sure that it's achievable, and that way make sure that you have the right time to be able to do that live stream on a daily basis. Another goal that we have here is to stay consistent, which is the biggest goal at the moment. That's great. That's very specific. How will you achieve that goal? Posting to Instagram at least 3 times a week. I have been so discouraged by my engagement, so I cut back. That's great. So having a goal that's very realistic is super awesome. And 3 times a week is the minimum that Instagram has when it comes to posting. Ideally, you would go higher after a few months or so, but to start 3 times a week is a great goal. Because you've mentioned being discouraged by your engagement, think of ways in which you can improve it. Research what works with the algorithm now, and think of ways that you can put your content out there in those 3 times a week to improve your engagement. What could you be doing for your audience that will prompt them to engage with your content a little more? I will join an agency to help with advice on TikTok by Wednesday this week. This is very specific, so I'm super excited to hear how that helps your goals in the future. So keep us in the loop. Someone said, I'm mad at Instagram for being hacked, so need to make friends with it again. Okay, being hacked is not fun, so make sure you take all the precautions necessary for this to not happen again. And then, yes, set some goals so that it helps you make friends with it again. Someone actually took the time to set everything very specifically, so I'm super happy to say to read this one. Smart. I would like to get at least 500 new followers on each one of the platforms. Measurable followers. A little more than that. You're gonna need a little more. So if your SMART goal is to get more followers, your measurable goal is to get 500 more followers on each platform. Then your achievable goal is, you said yes, as long as I'm able to produce content. How much content can you produce to make it achievable and sustainable at the same time? Relevant. Let me expose my new vision and mission. Okay, how is that relevant to your bigger goal? And then time bound by the first half of 2024, that's really achievable. So I think that works. I will review my metrics weekly to better understand my audience starting this week. That's a good goal. Make sure to audit your social media first and make sure you see your starting point and your benchmarks in order to create content better and better each week. I will review TikTok metrics weekly. Again, great goal. You can create a report or you can look at your TikTok analytics in your social B account. So there's a few ways for you to do that further and further. Okay, let's see which else. I've just taken over the social media accounts of a small company in the UK around web design. Their budget is low at the moment, so they only want 2 posts per week, one on LinkedIn and a monthly article on LinkedIn too. My goal is definitely brand awareness now, plus engagement. I think that's a very realistic goal given that it's a low budget for now, and I think it can be increased further down the line. You can also add a 3rd post per week that is something that's recycled, that doesn't take a lot of energy. So if they have content on their blog, you can add the RSS feed and the blog posts in Social B, and that would automatically cycle through them so that they have at least one more piece of content going in every week. That's another tip that you can do. I'll review content creators in my niche to know what works once every day of the week. I wouldn't do this every day of the week because that might skew your process, because you're going to be focused on what others are doing more than what you should be doing. I would, however, do with my audit a comprehensive competitor analysis just to see if my competition is doing around the same tactics as I am, or if they're doing something and I'm not, and I should be getting in line with the industry, or how can I improve things in the industry that my competition is not able to, but I am. So you can look at your competition, but don't make it a goal to look at them every single day, because it might hinder your own progress in the long run. We're a small nonprofit and I'm a one-woman show. My goal is to post twice a week across all platforms that we have. I will also create a social media calendar to help me plan my postings and sit down to review it at least once a month. This is a very achievable goal. You can do this very well, including with Social B. And by the way, if you're not yet using Social B and you're a nonprofit, there's a nonprofit discount available. So you can reach out to us and we'll talk to you more about that specific one. I will post reels on Instagram twice a month, presenting our company's SaaS product starting in February. That's great. But I hope those reels twice a month is not the only content that you'll be sharing on Instagram, because Instagram twice a month is a little too low for it to be actual consistent posting. Let's see. What else? Set up a monthly social calendar, each one by the end of the preceding month, and follow the UTM for 6 months to determine which 2 are driving traffic to my website the most. Yes, I love this one. Great job. Looking at branding, figure out how I can monetize weekly, make content more appealing. I'll do this every day. Look at engagement, see how it works. Stop using hashtags that trigger the bots to spam my comments. That's a good thing, but how will you know which hashtags those are? And also make sure you also look at the list of banned hashtags, especially on platforms like Instagram, where it is a thing, so that you don't use things that would hinder your expansion. Create a social media calendar is one that's very common here. Revamp my content strategy. That's the purpose of this challenge. Review all profiles. Smart goal 1, add daily hashtags to each post for that day. Yes, this can be done easily with a spreadsheet if you have the same hashtags to search, and add or replace to improve hashtags. Or if you're using Social B, you can just save them in hashtag collections here, and then you have them ready to go for whenever you're creating your content. So here's the simpler solution, or the spreadsheet solution as well. Staying consistent is your biggest struggle. So creating a calendar, repurposing large pieces of content into social media chunks. That's great. So there's a lot of good goals here. I'm sure I missed a few, but these are just amazing. Keep working on them to make them more and more measurable, to make them more specific, to give you that clarity that you need in order to be able to create those steps that you need to work towards them. So keep them specific. What do you want? Brand awareness, sales, followers, whatever it is. Keep them measurable. I want 5 times the reach on my posts. I want 500 more followers. I want $10,000 more sales. Make them achievable by making sure that you commit to steps that you are able to do. Live stream once a week if that's achievable to you. Create 3 posts a week on Instagram if that's achievable to you. If you don't have time to post daily, don't commit to posting daily because that's not going to be achievable for you. Make them relevant, make them time-bound, and keep in check here and there. So maybe a monthly report or a quarterly report, and adjust as you go. Don't be afraid to adjust as you go. That's one of the biggest things that I can say regarding these. So how did you feel about this exercise? Did you enjoy it? Do you want us to do more types of exercises in the webinars that we do? Let us know. And in the meantime, I promised you an offer, so it's time to reveal that offer. So if you're not yet a Social Bee customer, you can get 20% off the first 3 months on your monthly plans, or a total of 24% on your yearly plan of choice by using the code that you see on the screen for each one of your options. And if you haven't even tried Social Bee yet, no worries. You can start a 14-day free trial by just signing up. No credit card required. So I think this is a great opportunity for you to get your social media strategy in place. And before we move on into tomorrow's topics, I wanted to answer all of the questions that we have here. So I'll bring them up on this screen and let's see what we have here. So first question, I have to do a client audit on their LinkedIn account. They don't have a premium account and I only have access to the front end. I'm assuming the question is, how would I do that audit? If that's the case, I think I would request access to the backend, at least to the analytics, so that it can give me a more comprehensive idea of what's happening. From the front end, meaning just what you see on the profile, it's a little harder to analyze everything. However, it's not impossible. So you can see the number of followers or connections that they already have, but you don't see how they've grown over time. You can see the engagement that they have, but you can't really calculate it. You can see the number of likes or comments that they have, but again, you can't really see whether it's consistent or if it was over a bigger period of time, or more information on those posts. So my biggest advice would be to make sure that they give you access to the back end into the analytics, so that then you can actually give a good strategy based on this audit, because this is the purpose of the audit, to look at what you have, to see how you can improve it and create a strategy moving forward. So you need to have access to those information. Okay, next question. What is Social Bee? Social Bee is a social media scheduling tool that's meant to help you create, schedule, analyze, and engage with your posts all in one. And actually, as a matter of fact, there is a full walkthrough demo tomorrow after our session. So this is what Social Bee is. I'll walk you through it tomorrow after our session. So Andrea, if you want to add the link to our session tomorrow on the walkthrough in the chat, that would also be helpful. But it's basically a tool that helps with scheduling your content, organizing your content. Social Bee has this very awesome system. I absolutely love it, about content categories, which will help you get a better understanding of your content pillars, create your content mix, re-queue and repurpose your content. It's all amazing. And I'll go through everything in here tomorrow in the overview webinar, which is going to be after the second day of this challenge. So that is what Social Bee is about in short. Where can I download these slides? You'll get a bit of information. I'm not sure if the slides, but I think so. You'll get all the information that you need in a follow-up email with the recording from today's session, probably tomorrow. Okay, next question that we have here. How do I know which social networks would be? I think not all have the same audience. Is there a rule of thumb? That's a very good question. I think the first thing you need to think about is what types of content are you able to put out, as well as where your target audience would be located. So if you're using, if your business is more focused towards the end consumer, so usually e-commerce or experiences or things like this, and you're selling to the end client, B2C, meaning your audience might be on Facebook, they might be on Instagram, they might be on TikTok. On the other hand, if it's B2C, they might specifically be on LinkedIn or other places. You might work well with Instagram if your audience is younger, and TikTok as well. But on the other hand, if your demographics are Gen X, baby boomers and higher, so older generations, Facebook might be a better choice. So the answer to this question is that it's very complicated. Think of where your target audience is. Think of the types of content that you're willing to put out, the general sentiment of the best platforms to use in your industry. And these will give you a good idea of what are the right platforms for you. I'm saying think of what types of content you want to push out, because if you're not someone who enjoys video and creating video or being on camera or things like that, even if your audience is on TikTok, you might not enjoy it, and therefore it might hinder your progress there, because you're not going to have that incentive of creating more and more. Is Pinterest good for B2B? I would say Pinterest is good for both B2B and B2C. B2C specifically because of the large female audience there, the inspiration power on Pinterest. But I have definitely seen it work wonders for B2B, especially in the productivity, coaching industries, things like this. I think yes. I mean, which social network I should be in. I think this is an added comment to the previous one that I answered already. Would you guide us step by step for one channel to take inventory? Okay, so when you take inventory, you're actually going to look at every platform out there and see where you have a profile. So look at Facebook. Do you have a Facebook page? Yes. Okay, check. Put it in an Excel sheet or something. Do you have an Instagram? Yes. Okay, check it. Put it in the sheet. Do you have a TikTok? Yes. Put it in the sheet. Do you have a Snapchat? No. Okay, that's fine. Do you need a Snapchat? I don't know yet. Put it under a question mark. Do you need YouTube? Do you have YouTube? So look at all the platforms. And if you look at Social Bee's dashboard, you'll see all the major platforms. at least the ones that we integrate with, and you can see, like, you kind of can take an inventory by just connecting your profiles to Social Bee. So that way you can see all the types of profiles that you have, and then uploading them all, connecting them to Social Bee so that you have them all in one place and making it a lot easier to view them. You can also do this in an Excel sheet, as I said earlier, but it's basically just creating a list of all the places where you actually have a profile. That's it. That's all you need to do to take inventory. Our end-of-year analytics have demonstrated big differences between the analytics numbers in Social Bee versus Meta and Google Analytics 4. Can you explain why? I would need to look into it a little more in detail to be able to explain why. It might be possible that some of the analytics that you see in Meta are not part of the API, which is not something that we can bring in, especially if we're talking paid versus organic, because Social Bee will only show analytics for organic posting. So if you have paid ads or you're boosting your posts, you will not be able to tell the difference in Social Bee, but you will in Meta. As for Google Analytics, that's a lot more comprehensive. And at the moment, we do not have an integration with Google Analytics. So I don't think that you can compare what you get from Social Bee and what you get from Google at this moment. As I'm doing inventory, I am remembering some very old and neglected accounts. Is there any benefit in shutting them down and starting anew? If I shut down an old account, would it be possible to start a new account in the same name, or is it lost? Typically, it is lost. So you will not be able, if once a username has been taken, you will not be able to get it again. The difference is that maybe on Instagram, you might, if you manage to change the username of the old account, the one that was neglected, before shutting it down. But my question is, do you really want to shut them down, or do you just want to revamp them and build them from the ground up? You can just hide everything that you've done in the past if that's what bothers you, and start fresh directly on that profile. If it's your brand name, just revamp them and build from there. It's fine. Where do we find the rules for each social media platform? In other words, how can we know that 3 times a day is not great on Instagram, but somewhere else is? There are several best practices articles that will tell you the best frequency of posting on general platforms, but I think it's better if you look at your own analytics and you see your engagement throughout the day. What happens when you post once a week versus what happens when you post 3 times a week? The risk with, a day. The risk with posting too much in one single day on platforms where your content is not expiring as quickly is that the audience gets saturated with you, and then they either ignore your posts or unfollow you. And you don't want that. You want to keep them wanting more. So that means decreasing the frequency of posting so that they have some time to digest the information that you've provided and come back for more. Hope that makes sense. Where do we find banned hashtags? Again, there's lists online. So if you just Google banned hashtag lists for Instagram, I'm sure you will be able to find them. And just look for a list that's up to date. So things that are relevant today to make sure. And you also, my suggestion is that you also check those hashtags on Instagram. So just to give you a quick example, and this is just wide known, if you look up the hashtag beauty bloggers on, or beauty blogger on Instagram, it will only show top performing posts, not recent posts on the hashtag. And it will also give you a note that this has been blocked because it has been used so frequently and so out of context that people were just using it to get the visual up there, even though it wasn't relevant to them. So Instagram cut access to it. Basically, that's what happens. That's why they are banned. So look at that hashtag on Instagram. If you see recent posts, it's usable. If you don't, it's not. Is this recorded? Yes, it is. You'll be getting the recording probably tomorrow, via email. I have 4 hotels in my hotel group. We have a separate Pinterest account for each hotel and the corporate brand. Is this wise, or should all the hotels be boards within the brand's account? Why not both? Why not both? Make it a collaborative board between your each of your locations. I'm assuming they're in different places of the country or the world, and not all in the same city. So if that's the case, or even if it's in the same city, each of your locations could have a board on your general corporate brand, but also their own accounts that are more specific to people who are more prone to go to that hotel. So why not both, really? What acquisition channels do you guys recommend for B2B SaaS from your experience? That's a great question, actually. There's going to be, I think, B2B, I think LinkedIn is a good place to start with that, and then branch out from there and see where your particular audience is online and find it from there. But I think LinkedIn and maybe things like Quora would be a good place to start for B2B SaaS. Even Reddit, why not? Okay, question. For someone who posts inspirational content, how many times a day would you suggest is reasonable to post? Daily? I have a lot of content already created, so posting is not a problem with Social Bee. I'm just wondering if I am posting too many times on Twitter or X. I do not post as often on other networks. I do post daily on the networks, but reasonably. So X, Twitter, the tweets or X's, I guess you can call them X's, um, they have a shorter lifespan because there are so many of them happening here again and again and again that they have such a short lifespan that it's not an issue that you post on Twitter up to even 12 times a day or more. On the other hand, you would see how this would be saturating your audience if you would do that on things like Instagram. That being said, Pinterest and TikTok also have a higher number of suggested posting times, not 12 or higher, but maybe 3 to 5 each day would work on Pinterest and TikTok at different times of the day. My client wants me to use Canva as they have an account, but I love Social Bee. Are they the same? That's a good question. No, they're not the same, but we do have a Canva integration in Social Bee. So if your client wants to use Canva to create the visuals, you can import them in Social Bee by using the Canva integration and then bring in that content into Social Bee and scheduling from there. So it's amazing, really. You can get the best of both worlds there. Okay, next question. Does this work like Canva, or can I integrate Canva, which I use now? I guess I just answered that. Yes, you can use Canva in Social Bee to bring in your visuals, to create your visuals, and we are actually planning on improving the Canva integration this year, so you'll be able to do even more with it. Will there be a recording? Yes, there will be. Advice for live streaming on TikTok. I think it depends. I think I would need to learn a little more about your industry, about your audience, to give you good advice there. Just don't do it too often to have your audience not want to engage with it, but also keep it engage withable. Is that a word? I just made it a word. Make your audience want to watch your live streams. Make it interesting for them, basically. How many platforms can you use on Social Bee with the basic plan paid subscriptions? I thought I couldn't use all of them until I paid more. So with the lowest tier on Social Bee, you can accommodate 5 social profiles, and that's regardless of whether it's 5 Instagram accounts or whether it's a mix of multiple. And then you can go higher to 10 social profiles with the Accelerate plan. So the reasoning for this is that most businesses, especially ones that are just starting up or just in the first few years, they will not have as many social profiles. So around 5 is a good average for the number of profiles that you should have as a small starting up business. And then as you grow and you see a need for more, you can build up more. Another question. Can I post from my Facebook personal profile from the web app, not from the mobile app? Unfortunately, no. We would love to make that happen, but unfortunately, ever since the Cambridge Analytica thing, Facebook removed all access from the API to be able to schedule on personal profiles. That is why no third-party tool can do that, unfortunately. The only way to do that is to create the content in Social Bee and get it as a notification on your Social Bee mobile app in order to continue publishing it from there. So I know you probably wanted a better answer, but unfortunately, it is what we got to deal with. Someone asks, what is SaaS? It's a software as a service business model, which is exactly what Social Bee is. So it's a software that you can use as a service that goes month to month so that you can use it to your advantage whenever you need to. How is SEO influenced by social media posts? That's a great question. That's a very good question. Social media and SEO tend to go together. Specifically, if we're talking things like Instagram and TikTok, hashtag SEO is very important. Lately, especially on Instagram, we've noticed a trend where hashtags are used for SEO purposes and not so much discoverability, even though they do tend to go hand in hand, but it will just be SEO. On the other hand, whenever you're writing your caption, it's a good rule of thumb to keep SEO in mind and use keywords, because social media posts, especially Facebook posts, for instance, on your page, will get indexed. Facebook, LinkedIn, things like this, YouTube even, will get indexed into Google and other search engines. So SEO is an important part of Social Bee, of social media, Social Bee as well, of social media posts. And to answer your question, how it is influenced, well, it might be harder for you to rank on your website on the first page, but it might just be easier to rank with your social media and then bring them to your website from there and build your SEO on your website from there. So it's a good thing to keep in mind for sure. Advice for tools to live stream on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I don't have any. I am not sure about this. So if anyone in the chat has any tools that they'd like to recommend, please let us know. Unfortunately, I don't know any, so I can't help with this one. Is there a Google spreadsheet integration? I'm assuming you're asking about Social Bee. The answer is no, not directly, but if you need it, you can create a zap between your Google spreadsheet and Social Bee, or if you just use the Google spreadsheet to create your content, you can upload it as a CSV file directly in Social Bee. So there are options, but there isn't a direct integration. Can I post from my Facebook? I already answered this one, so I will not answer it again. When scheduling your post on Social Bee, does it affect the reach on the platform? Will they consider it from a third party and lower the reach potential? Oh, the number of times I've heard this myth. Let me tell you that. First of all, it's just a myth. If they didn't want third-party tools on Facebook or Instagram or whichever other platform, why would they create an official API for tools like Social Bee and others to integrate with? That's your reasoning number one. So no, this is a myth. Using a third-party tool does not by itself limit your reach. What does limit your reach is if you are posting the same thing over and over again, or doing other practices that might be hindering your success. So using a tool like SocialBee will not limit your reach whatsoever. Would I need SocialBee for just one profile? It really depends on what you want to do with that profile. If your profile is Facebook or Instagram and you already have a free scheduling tool there for that one profile, maybe it's not that necessary. But if you're looking to scale and grow, then I would say you can give it a go. Open up a free trial, see if it works for you, see if it makes sense for you, and then you would be able to put it in a balance and decide. So I have a few more questions here, and then we're going to end this webinar because we are going into overtime. I love the questions, by the way. The next question is, we only have 714 followers on Insta, but our two main competitors have 12K and 2,024. Which is a great number for this year, apparently. We're going to dedicate 30% of our time to commercial marketing tasks. Would it be realistic if I say I want to grow by 6K by the end of the year? Needless to say that I'm going to be using SocialBee, 4 posts per week, 1 story per day, and 1 reel per week. Is the 1 reel included in the 4 posts, or is it on top? That would be one question. The second question is, who's your target audience? Are you B2B or B2C? Are you planning to do any specific tactics that will help you grow, like giveaways, contests, things like that? There's a lot of follow-up questions here to be able to give you a good answer. I also need to know a lot more about your content strategy, but I would say 6,000 is ambitious, but not impossible. That's what I would say. It's ambitious, but not impossible. Facebook story posts. What are your suggestions of using SocialBee's new Facebook story posting feature, since it posts to the page and not the profile? I'm a bit confused of this feature. Okay, so with SocialBee, you can share content to your Facebook page, whether it's stories, reels, or feed. Same thing with Instagram, but when it comes to your personal profile, you will only be able to share content regardless of whether it's stories or feed posts or anything with the mobile reminder app. So again, this is because of a limitation on Facebook's end. So that's the explanation for it. What are your suggestions on using SocialBee's feature? Well, sharing the stories to your page would be the suggestion. I'm not sure I fully understand this question. So if you have, if you need clarification, we can talk it over a little more if needed. Can I use hashtags and affiliate links without limits? Hashtags with limits, definitely with limits. There is such a thing as overdoing hashtags, and whether you're using Instagram or TikTok or any other hashtag forward platform, look at the best practices for that platform. Instagram, just to give you an example, used to be one of those platforms where you would need to use the maximum amount of hashtags, which by the way was 30. It still is 30 hashtags for Instagram. You cannot add more than that. But best practices now have scaled down from the 30 hashtags per post to around 5 to 8 hashtags per post and making them count. So there's a difference in how they are acting now versus how they were just a couple of years ago. And for affiliate links, I would say, again, tread carefully, because affiliate links, they work, yes, but if you overshare them, your audience might lose trust in you. So mix and match things that are affiliate links with value information that is not affiliated in any way, and create a good mix, a balance, if you will. Can I use Artboard Studio for the graphics to post on Social Bee? We don't have an integration with them. You can use them outside and then export that and import the final product into Social Bee, but we don't currently have an integration with them, so you cannot use them directly from Social Bee. You could, however, suggest this as a feature on our roadmap. And the final question, is there any issues if I post the same content across platforms? The short answer is no, if you have the same audience. The longer answer is if you have different audiences on different platforms, it might make sense, it might not, because you have different approaches to different audiences. On the other hand, I said yes on cross-posting because it saves you time and energy, especially in the beginning, and it keeps everything cohesive. However, if your audience is always online on those platforms, it might get boring. So keep it, again, balanced somehow. Make sure you spice it up here and there by creating posts that are specific to each platform and not just absolutely always share the same content across the same platforms. Because why would you keep that many posts? Why would you keep that many platforms if you have the same audience on all of them and they're all posting the same thing? Hope that makes sense. And then a little update on the Facebook story posts. If I post to Facebook story for the pages, will people see the story in my main story section from their profile? Yes, of course. If your page is up there, then yeah, if they follow your page, they should see the stories there as well. Yes. And that concludes today's webinar. So don't forget to use the code in case you haven't started your Social Bee journey yet. If you have any follow-up questions, you can always reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to answer them. You can reach out to me directly, anka@socialbee.com, or our team at hello@socialbee.com. Thanks for joining us today, for being here for this long on top of the actual webinar. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with day 2.